Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The 100. A great episode. A lot of interesting things went down this episode, so let's kind of break things down bit by bit. We do see Kane in this episode kind of trying to be more of like the voice of reason with this whole situation, realizing like, he's trying to keep peace between the two groups, which isn't, that's how Kane's always played throughout, over the course, like since subsequently coming down to Earth and everything, like he's always tried to keep the peace. He's always been a mediator between the different people, between the grounders and the sky crew, now the inmates and one crew, which obviously he's in a complicated situation because he just doesn't agree with the way Octavia has been leading things. It's like, yeah, it needed to be led like that for the situation they were in. It's even something that Clark talks about. She's impressed because it's like, yeah, like Octavia's changed and stuff like that. And a third of their people died because of their whole situation. But it's like she was able to make one crew so powerful and they're so loyal and they're so united. Like the groups have never been that united over the course of the series. There's always been issues and all that was smashed because of Octavia herself. So it's kind of an interesting thing. It almost seems like they're also setting up the situation of like Charmaine kind of hitting on Kane in the sense of like, because obviously her second in command in this weird situation is McCreary. She doesn't trust him. He's got his own situation because he's just waiting for the moment to like take Charmaine out. She's just the only one that's kind of in control right now. And I think he figures if he takes her out, he won't have the other inmates kind of backing him. He'll probably have some, but not everyone. The dude he killed last episode, probably one of the few people. But there's obviously some that would follow him. But maybe that's why. Also because it's like, let her make all the sacrifices, wait till we're in a powerful position, then I take her out and then kind of swoop up all the spoils for himself, type of thing. So I'm thinking she might be looking at Kane as a potential like second command. She's even like, oh yeah, Abby, like I gave her your wife, whatever happened is the whole pill situation between you and your wife is like, Abby's not my wife. She's like, So it makes me wonder, is it going to be kind of like at first because she doesn't want to trust Kane because like, oh, you're a traitor, you turned on. Like, well, that's kind of like, well, it was already on the outs for Octavia, but it was also to ensure that everything kind of worked out. So if it meant to be branded a traitor, he was fine with just letting things kind of. He was okay with things kind of proceeding in the direction that they were going. So I kind of get the feeling we might see that situation where she kind of wants Kane to kind of be her advisor. It's kind of almost potential plaything. Potentially that might be the direction. It's actually interesting because we ended up finding out more about her. Like the whole cut on her throat is because she tried to cut herself, kill herself because like this team that she actually trained was sent to kind of retrieve her after she did all like the terrorist shit that she did. Her dad got two in the head for trying to hide her, which is interesting considering the fact is that she's even talking about, yeah, these are the very people she trained that took out her own dad. So I guess they saved her in time to kind of just lock her up. It's like, no, you're not getting out that easy. So she kind of says it would have probably been better if she just kind of put two in her, if they just put two in her, but it's like, no, they let her live. And so I guess the whole point. The question is like, why is it that she was a prisoner in the first place? I guess because they had all these protocols set in place. So they're like, yeah, these prisoners, we can use. Maybe they had the same mentality of we can't leave these people here to die. Because it's like, oh, well, maybe her whole like going rogue and being terroristic was like right when Earth was about to kind of reach its end. They were heading into space. I don't know. It's hard to say with this whole situation. So. It does seem McCreary's main motivation is the fact is that he's sick, along with a lot of other people. It seems like it's connected to the materials that they were drilling. So his main concern is getting himself fixed amongst anyone else. Like I said, McCreary's got his own motives and reasoning for doing everything. It is definitely going to be interesting going forward, seeing this whole Abby situation with her whole pill thing. Obviously, she promised Kane that she wouldn't, but obviously we know she snuck some out, so that's still kind of an issue for her. It's definitely going to be interesting seeing how that proceeds going forward. I'm sure that's going to be like a struggle that Abby has, like going forward. Like, will Clark be one of the reasons she finally goes clean? Because it's like, she realizes that everything kind of happened because, for one, she stole pills to kind of fix her own addiction. Almost got Kane killed. He actually had to kill people because of that. And so but it doesn't seem like that stops her. That addiction's kind of hard to break. I can only assume. So along with all of that was the whole situation of like Octavia's not willing to listen to anyone because it's like, I guess she leads one crew and one crew, it like follows her. So whatever order she gives, others are willing to listen. But Clark is kind of like, we shouldn't do this because she survived on Prime Fire, so she knows exactly what goes on. She's like, the sandstorms, like they crystallize and the sand will turn into glass and slash you up. So, but Octavia wasn't willing to listen because it's like in her mind, it's like one crew would go take that valley. That's all that matters. So even to the point to avoid their camp being blown up, they all join, huddle together over Octavia, and like all of them take the shards to their back as a means of protecting themselves. They hid themselves into the most dangerous. I mean, that was the only way to hide themselves from like the missile fire, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit too. So, it is kind of interesting how much people are willing, like, I mean, even Bellamy kind of like didn't 100% side with the way Octavia runs things, but it's like when you look at what one crew is capable of doing, what they're willing to do for everyone, for each other, like, you know, that mentality of one crew, it's a good mentality, but at the same time, it's just kind of like there's a good side to it, but there's also like the bad side that's kind of been created because of the circumstances they were living under, you know, because they never thought they'd get out. So it's just kind of living that way. Like I said, it, from the outside, doesn't look that great. Because like I said, it has its problems, but it's like it's the life they've been living for the past like roughly 6 years. So it's their life, and who, you know, it's that whole complicated thing of like, well, who are you to judge their way of doing things? Because it's gotten them this far. Because even Charmaine kind of acknowledged the fact is none of her own people would do that. It's because it's like, because even Kane's like, yeah, would any, you surround you complain about all the murderous people that are around Octavia, but it's like you surround yourself with murderers and thieves. And like, would they do that for you? Even she admitted, like, with the circumstances, they wouldn't go into a storm to protect me. So that speaks volumes. What I also appreciated is like, we'll probably be seeing it more and more this season is like, it's something I feel like it never came up too much throughout the series. It's like the wildlife type of situation. Like it came up a bit in earlier seasons, but it never was a big issue. And now it seems like the environment might be more of an issue because there's like those worm things that get inside of you. And it seems like if one gets inside of you, it starts multiplying. So you have that one guy. Even to the point Octavia was like, yeah, I'll kill the dude, you know, if he doesn't get any better. It's like, we're not even going to try and make sure that he's okay before we start doing it. Because that's exactly what Kane was saying, where it's like, it's that situation of if you become more of a hindrance, if you cause too much of an issue, what you do happen on the arc, you got floated. Like, you know, so it's kind of like we're still, like he said, we're still kind of keeping that mentality around, which is like we shouldn't. That's not a good way to live. We do, for the one, too, it's like we don't have to live that way. So it is kind of interesting. Octavia ended up getting one, and Clark had to cut it out and like pull it out. So we'll probably be seeing more of those potentially. Like I'm sure, I mean, I would assume Clark's been around. Like that valley's the only place that's safe. So obviously she's been around, so she knows a lot of like the weather stuff like that. But even she's probably never seen everything that has kind of come about because of Prime Fire. So it's like there's probably a lot more stuff that it's laying beneath the surface that we don't know about, you know. So it's interesting because you even had Indra being like, you know, she's glad that Bellamy's here. It's like, because your sister needs you. Because like I said, even Indra doesn't agree with the way Octavia's been proceeding, because like she feels like Octavia's a warrior, sure, but she feels like Octavia's kind of been taking the wrong direction. I'm sure Indra kind of agrees with the way that Kane kind of thinks, but it's like she can't really say anything because, like I said, Octavia's led this whole group, and besides, even though she is a mentor to Octavia, with this mentality, it seems like Octavia would probably even kill her because she's even threatening to kill Bellamy if he steps out of line. It's like if you disagree or speak out against one crew again, then you are an enemy of one crew, then you are my enemy. It's like this is your brother, and it's like it seems like just when they're about to patch things up, things got worse between them, but then they patched things up potentially. And now after all this time, because it's something that even Clark touched on, is like, Octavia isn't the only one that changed. You did too. Because the fact is, that whole situation, he tried to find another way because he wasn't willing to just kill all those inmates. No matter what their circumstances were, there was still going to be a lot of people, you know, that was going to die for it. So he didn't want to let that happen. So he didn't, you know, it was meant to be leveraged, but even he didn't want the situation to turn out that way. It is kind of like a miscommunication, just kind of people desperate because this is the last valley, last good land that potentially exists on Earth. So it's going to call a problem over like territory type of thing. So, which is leading to everything to what it is. Obviously, Octavia blames Bellamy, saying like, "Oh, you're the reason we're at war in the first place." But it's just kind of these clashing, like I said before, kind of like ideologies. Like everyone's got their way of things, and it's just kind of like, "No, the valley is ours. We don't appreciate you coming here. Like we've been here. This world is ours. We fought and survived here. You are outsiders coming in. If you're not part of one crew, you're the enemy." And that mentality is why Octavia will probably never look at them in a situation of like, "Oh, we can be allies." Like obviously, Kane wants to bury the hatchet and come together, but interestingly enough, because it also seems like he's going to be selling Octavia out. So I'm wondering, will he be willing to sacrifice Octavia if it means kind of getting everyone else in line? But I mean, obviously, like, it's not going to be that easy just to take out Octavia, which I don't think that's what he would want to do. But it's enough to probably give him enough leverage to kind of make sure things go a little smoothly. It might be a situation of, oh, we'll kind of work together, but we have to knock Octavia off her throne, but a lot of people might not be willing to. Kara might change her mind because even she was like, wait, what? When she was agreeing with everything Octavia said until Octavia was like willing to retreat. And it's like, oh, let's strip these people, the people that are dead, to strip them of their armor and their weapons. And it's like, wait, what? Because for one, it's like her going back on what she said before, that one crew doesn't run away. It's like, well, now we're retreating. And also it's like, we're not even giving proper, we're not treating our dead like proper, like we're kind of all in this together, all for one type of thing. And it's like, we're just going to sacrifice their dead, just like leave them to the elements. It's like, we're not going to give them a proper burial or anything like that. It's like, we're out in the open. So Carol was always the most obviously like defiant. Obviously that led to like things playing out the way they did, but I think some of that still applies. So she might be a thread that Charmaine is able to kind of tug at to kind of betray Octavia in the end. She might even try and go for power, because it's something interesting that Indra had talked about, like, are some of Gaia's influences, and that's the fact is that, you know, in Octavia's mind, she thinks love is weakness, but then like Indra's like, I love you, are you trying to say I'm weak? And she's like, I would never say that. So it's just kind of like having attachment to people don't make you weak, you know. It's kind of like what binds us together. It motivates you, keeps you stronger, because you're willing to fight for the people that you love, to fight to protect the people you love too. So that makes you stronger. Like Indra didn't say all that, but you know, I'm paraphrasing. I'm just kind of like using kind of context clues in that scenario. So I don't know. It's just kind of interesting. A lot of interesting things, like looks at the end where we had like everyone kind of reunited. Like you see Harper and Monty looking at seeing Clark. It's like they haven't seen her in so long. And you also had Echo running up the Bellamy, which they start kissing. And you see Clark kind of look that direction, which like, because it seemed like last time they saw each other, Clark and Bellamy, which has always been a thing. I think everyone's always like, I've always been like, yeah, I thought Clark and Bellamy would be a thing. But then it was like Clark and Finn. But like, because as the series progressed, you saw them get closer and closer. Especially where last season left off, it seemed like there might have been something there. So maybe you see Clark having that look, which might turn to a love triangle situation, which for Clark, there hasn't been one since like early season, the whole Finn Raven situation. That was the last time that really ever came up with a whole love triangle situation. So potentially that could be something come up, especially because Echo is not welcome because Octavia is giving her the stank eye. So it's like, had a problem with Echo before. I mean, Bellamy was like, no, Octavia will welcome you. It's like, oh, maybe Octavia before had issues might have still been wanting to do it, but this Octavia, who knows? She probably won't be as welcoming. I mean, Bellamy obviously isn't as welcome. She makes exception because she's like, well, you're my brother, I love you, I'm so glad that you're here, but it's like, you step out of line again, I will put you down if necessary. And I was like, yeesh, no one's safe under these circumstances. So I even love, obviously, the whole Shaw situation. I shouldn't be too surprised because I had an inkling that was going to be the thing, because it's like, yeah, because I'm like, at what point in time would Raven really have the time to really dismember your weapons and stuff like that? Because she probably wouldn't have even known that you had weapons. Maybe she did, but it just didn't seem like she had the time to really do that because she was so focused on this whole situation and looking stuff up on you guys. Like I said, there's still like that other ship, number 3, that we still don't know anything about. We know about this one obviously being 4, but 3 is still kind of an enigma because there's like so much classified information on that. So like I said, I get the feeling that's going to come back in some shape or form. What form exactly? Well, we don't know. But what is interesting though is that he's the one that locked the weapons, and like Like he still didn't sell himself out, because it's like even Murphy and Raven were like, you literally sat here and watched us get tortured, knowing that we couldn't give them the answer they wanted because you're the one that was behind all of it. It's like, yep, all you care about is saving your own hide. So it's like, yes, it's like, yeah, we get it. You want to protect our friends and stuff like that. You want to kind of minimize bloodshed. He might be one of the leading forces that they can kind of rely on in kind of keeping peace between this whole situations, which I get the feeling like there's going to be people amongst the different groups. Like McCreary, he's probably going to start springing up some chaos here and there, trying to incite some stuff so he can, like I said, bid for power and stuff like that. But in the end, they had a plan which involved Murphy running away. I love him and Maddie meeting each other, and it's like, she's like, oh, I thought you'd be finer. He's like, wait, what? Because that's the stories that she told stories about everyone. And he kind of talked about the fact is, yeah, if it wasn't for Clark, like Clark wouldn't have made, she's like, she owes her life to everyone, is kind of what Maddie was saying. And everyone was like, yeah, but we owe ours to Clark. None of us would be here if it wasn't for her. So, but Murphy decided to stay behind because he had the whole shot caller thing, and I thought it was kind of sweet that Maury did too. She's trying to pretend like, yeah, she's pissed at him obviously because he's so selfish and stuff like that. But at the same time, because I love it, even with the whole Shaw situation, it's like, no, let's take that deal because that means we won't get tortured, so that's fine. But it's like, once again, it's like Murphy plays up the asshole angle like he doesn't care. Yes, he's very selfish. I mean, just human nature, but he does care about other people. Like I said, when the time comes, you can always rely on Murphy, you know. So. But I love that, like, when Maury stayed behind, she's like, just come on. And you can see a smirk on his face, because it's like, no matter how bad their situation is, like, and Maury still cares about him, obviously. Hence why she wasn't going to let him go out on alone, because she's like, okay, you're sacrificing yourself for us because you know you'll slow us down. So that speaks volumes. So everyone's not completely together, but we're steps in that direction, and I'm very excited to see where those steps take us. Like I said, I get the feeling like things are going to escalate very interestingly in the next episode, with all these being reunited and everything. I'm curious to see how this all plays out, because I kind of get the feeling like I don't know if it's going to end like peacefully, but I still feel like there's so much more to this inmate situation. Like I really don't know how this is all going to play out. Like I said, I still think that Eligas 3 thing, I don't know how that's going to flow into the story, like whether that's going to be a big thing or not. All the people that are sick too. Octavia's reign, whether that'll kind of slip from her fingertips, like she tries to keep soul control, but then like losing more and more. Considering the fact is you have other people kind of stepping them, which is something I was surprised about, because I think I chalked all of like the way Clark would view things as just someone who survived all that time by herself. I thought maybe that mentality would kind of come back, but it's like, no, she still keeps a rationale of like, no, like there has to be a better way, like, than to just war for all this situation, that we can find another way. Like I said, it's just kind of interesting, because it doesn't, I guess now that she's kind of reunited with everyone, kind of that side of hers come back, because, you know, I don't know, because her old mentality before, because Maddie was like, oh, he was trying to help, like, it's like, he might be a good guy. It's like, no, there's no good guys. So I don't know. I mean, for her, it might be a situation, there's no good or bad. These are just all people trying to survive, going about it different ways. I mean, Clark did make the first moves, but it's kind of like, well, considering who these people are and all that they've done, it's like, well, not like they're the most savory of people. Like I said, I'm curious to see how this continues going forward, especially into the next episode where all this is going to take us. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good